Hi guys, I'm Paul Pluter and welcome to the ArchieLuxury corporate channel. Today guys, I'm wearing my Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon, the professional, the Omega Speedmaster Professional, the moon watch. Today guys, I want to talk about Rolex lousy investments. Rolex lousy investments. And it seems in this day and age, everyone wants to buy Rolex. If you go throughout boutique Rolex stores around the globe, you will see a shortage of steel sports Rolex watches. Whether you go to Australia, you go to Thailand, Bangkok, the capital, go to Jakarta, Indonesia, go to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, go to Hong Kong, Singapore, the story is the same. Steel sports Rolex is very much in short supply. But today I want to talk about Rolex lousy investments. And this is a real life example. So for this example here, the currency I'm using is Australian dollars because that's where I live. I'm in Australia. So Rolex lousy investments. So in the late 90s, I had a nice collection of timepieces. I had a Rolex 18238. This was a Rolex President with factory diamond dial. This was a very minty piece, beautiful. It, for anyone who is interested, it was belonged to one of the children of the Ainsworths. The Ainsworths are the very wealthy family who owns Aristocrat Industries. They make most of the poker machines in Australia. I had a 18238 President yellow gold with cream dial with diamonds, factory diamonds, which I acquired from one of the Ainsworth children. I had this was in the late 90s. I had to sell it for personal reasons. I bought it pretty damn well, and I sold it for 13,500 Australian dollars in 1999. It broke my heart. It was my grail. It was my reason. I loved wristwatches, and I sold it for personal reasons. Other watches I had in my collection at the time, I had a 16013, that's a two-tone Datejust. It was an R serial number, the last of the plastic Datejusts. Two-tone, steel and gold, champagne dial, nice condition. I bought that for mid-threes, 3.5 Australian. The next piece I had was a 16610, a Submariner date, which I acquired for the princely sum of I think about 4,000 Australian dollars. It was a really minty example. I remember buying it from a pilot who flew for Dragonair, and he sold it because he bought a two-tone black dial Submariner, so he wanted to get rid of the steel version. And I had a Explorer 2 16570. That's the Polar Explorer 2. And I bought that from I actually bought that from a restaurant owner, a raconteur at the Gold Coast who was going through financial problems. Sven was his name. And I paid 4,000 Australian dollars. At this time, 1988, you could buy a middle-class home for about $130,000 to $150,000. A really nice house was about $250,000. So, at said time there, I had my collection, and due to financial reasons, I had to sell these off. Now, if we fast forward now to 2018. So this is 19 years ago I sold them off. And we have a look at what has happened to the prices. Okay, so The 18238, the day-date President. I sold that really mint nice example, 13.5. What's it worth now? Oh, I would probably say in Australian dollars for a really nice President, probably 17, 18 maybe. 18 would be absolute top whack. I've actually seen a double 18238 available for just under 20. So that's where I would pitch this piece. So over nearly 20 years, the President, whereas before it was a 10%, it was roughly 10% of my house cost, it hasn't kept that up. Now it would be about less than 5% of a house cost because house prices have soared in Australia, and the Rolex day-date, you would have to say that was a lousy investment. If I would have kept that watch all along, a lousy investment. Because if we looked at buying it for 13.5, which was the price I sold it for, how much would it cost to get one now? Say 17.5. Hasn't really gone up. Very, very poor investment indeed. The Submariner, the 16610, it was an S serial number. Box papers, nice example. I remember I sold it for about four and a half. I think I sold it for 4.5 to a Lamborghini dealer at the Gold Coast, believe it or not. What's that watch worth now? Well, if it was retained in really nice condition that it was in, box papers example would probably be worth in Australian dollars probably 10,000, I would say. $10,000. So it's more than doubled. Yes, it's gone up. It's more than doubled. The Explorer 2, $4,000. It's been a bit of a dog. It's sort of held its own. It's only in the last 2 years that it's really gone up. I actually did buy a Explorer 2 a couple of years ago for 5,000 Australian dollars. 5,000. This is what I paid. That was no papers, but it was a newer model, no holes case, solid end-link piece. Nice example, 5,000. So it's probably worth now, I would say a nice example like that in Australian dollars be about 7,000 Australian. That's what you'd expect to pay from a dealer for a piece. So it has gone up a bit, almost double. So not a terrible investment. The 16013, well, that piece there, it's gone up a bit, but nothing fantastic. Again, it would depend on the condition. The stretch in the bracelet is a major factor on that type of watch. So basically, as an investment, if I would have used that money from the President to put a down payment down on an investment property, which I rented out and had the tenant help pay the mortgage, I could have tripled my money. So the Rolex itself, the day date and the date just have proven to be lousy Rolex investments. Lousy. Very, very crummy investments. Why is it so? And there's a number of reasons for it. Rolex themselves they have released a number of, Rolex has released a number of day dates. They've got the day date 40, the day date 2. So it's confused. Do you go 36 mil? Do you go 40 in the day date 2, or do they change the profile in the day date 40? So it's 3 distinct models. That hasn't helped the resale value. Rolex themselves, the sports models have done very, very well. But the honest truth is, back in the day, people didn't buy the sports models. They bought the date just and the day dates. That's what they wanted. People didn't really... Sports model, you'd only buy that if you were a bit weird. And this can also be seen with the Rolex Daytona. You look at plastic Daytonas, 4-digit Daytonas, like the Paul Newman. In the day, early 70s, everybody wanted an automatic chronograph. You wanted a caliber 11. That's what you wanted. You wanted a caliber 11 Hoya to be like Steve McQueen. Or you wanted a Zenith El Primero. This is what you wanted. You didn't want some stupid Rolex manual wind. No, you didn't want manual wind. And this is what's happened. And the worst dial for a Daytona would have been the Paul Newman dial. That was the least desired. So it's kind of funny. You've got to go against the herd. You've got to be against the herd. The herd can be a very, very big influencer. So many of these watches here have made lousy Rolex investments. Very, very lousy investments. In fact, if you look at some Rolexes today, the collector Rolex market, the first sort of collectible was the bubble back. Now, the bubble back in modern terms, it's 33 mils. Far too small for most people in this day and age. So it's very, very tricky. Picking the next thing can be very difficult. Sports, steel sports. They make a lot more steel sports now than they ever did in days gone by. So it is a very, very tricky thing. Lousy Rolex investments. It's a very tricky thing. Sometimes go against the herd. If for example, in this day and age now, what do? Okay, you got to place your bets. What do you buy? Well, going back early 2000s, what was very cool? The cool, sophisticated collector, he would have had Panerai. A lot of sophisticated collectors had Pam. They were going way above retail prices. And another brand was IWC. These two brands here have become dogs. Woof, woof. These have become dogs. So maybe the smart money is to say, well, I'll go against the herd. If we use that Rolex lousy investment logic, we can see that if we go against the herd and say, well, what was very cool but now is a bit soft, pre-owned IWC and Panerai, why don't we go into that market? We would be very, very silly to sell these off to buy Rolex, sell these off low because market price is yucky, and then pay top whack to get into Rolexes. That would be a dumb thing to do. A very dumb thing to do. So, in my opinion, maybe that's the sweet spot. These brands here could kick back in. Mind you, they could continue to be dogs. Woof, woof. They could be continuing their doggy traits. So, it is a tricky thing. Rolex lousy investments. What is the answer? Well, I think the answer is buy things you like. If you like these pieces, if you like the Pam, buy a Pam. Don't buy it with the prospect of reselling, because these are very hard to get good money back after you're going to lose. Hold. Don't be a sheeple and follow the crowd. Do the opposite to what the market does. If you do that, maybe you won't make a lousy Rolex investment. I'm Paul Pluta. This is the Paul Pluta channel. Guys, I'm really struggling to survive at the moment. Please, PayPal a small donation. ArchieLuxury72@gmail.com. Maybe consider sponsoring me on Patreon. I need support. I'm Paul Pluta. This is the Paul Pluta Luxury channel, the ArchieLuxury corporate channel. I'm trying to help you not make a lousy Rolex investment.